2022, Thursday the 8th of September. Our overview, the total available in this grant funding round is $23,081. The total amount requested is $40,622, which obviously exceeds the funds available for this funding round by $17,542. We received 18 applications, 17 of which are eligible to submit to the committee for funding. One application did not meet the criteria as it was for a film festival, which is not supported by creative communities. We do have some notes on the applications, which we'll cover later. Focusing on priorities, we continue to note the committee's focus on projects that assist in the recovery and resilience in the time of the pandemic. And given the ongoing impacts of COVID-19 on the community, we have continued to reflect this priority and the continued focus of Ngā Toi Māori in our advertising. There's some background on, do we want to say? We have one comment on one of our applications, Mary Gow from the mulled wine concerts. We want to submit that we have suggested that Mary Gow does pursue other forms of funding as she is a long-time applicant, and we are having a priority on new applications receiving funding as a priority. The reports on previous projects. All applicants to this round who receive grants for projects that finished by the time of this allocation have either submitted completed reports or have extended start dates due to COVID-related delays. There are about half of the recipients from the previous round who are yet to submit, and we will be following up on these. COVID, flu, and various winter illnesses affected the start date of several projects, but so far all recipients are implementing their events. So everyone's going ahead, even if they're delayed. Smarty grants. We're now up and running with our new application processing system, Smarty Grants. This committee assessed and scored all applications using this platform, and we hope this worked well for the committee. And welcome all feedback, good or bad, as we aim to act on improvements where required. We were going to speak to eligibility.
We're going to speak to the eligibility of an activity if it's an art or a craft, rather than the definition.
So the creative community scheme in general requires the activity to be a art rather than a craft. And so although the line is obviously fine in some cases.
It's generally a grey area, and it's usually with discretion is down to the committee.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, that's very helpful. Are there any questions of staff?
Yes. Thank you for that report. I just noted that there was a comment around the continued sustainability of the mulled wine concerts. Does that potentially also apply to the Music in the Park, the music festivals and events application?
Yes, at this stage it does. So we'd have to, just reflect on the amount of funding available versus the the fact that we have a $17,000 deficit, and that priority is given to new applications.
Sorry, yep. We'll just use our buttons, that way we can be heard. Thank you, that's all right. So question, Grant.
Your applications, why did, presumably that comes from Creative New Zealand. So we're under their instruction. Why do they focus on new as opposed to, an applicant may have run an event successfully for 10 years. One feels it shouldn't be punished for that.
It's given the opportunity for new applicants to actually go ahead with their projects, you see. Yeah, it's for instance, if Music in the Park, they've received a funding from the previous round. And if we have a new applicant, then we would like, I think Creative New Zealand would like to give the opportunity to the new applicant to have a go.
Right. Okay.
Mike,
Sorry, just to add
Mr. Mendoza.
to their advice. Thank you. We have this a lot with our funds where our repeat applicants end up having almost baseline funding. And what it does is it takes up all the bandwidth for any new and particularly in creative space. It's really important that where we have discretion, that we try not to end up giving baseline funding. But you make a good point. It's almost like punishing really good events, but actually understanding the intent and the spirit of these funds is not to be baseline funding the events. Thanks, Madam Chair.
If I may just add to, you'll notice over time that we do get the opportunity to, and we talk over staff prior, they send out the grants around information, and we may have decided to focus on matariki or socially, things that enhance social connection or as a COVID response. And there are different themes around generally. This just happens to be a theme about new that's come from above us, but we do as a committee get to choose and discuss and work out. Questions, Michelle?
I really don't understand this grey area of craft versus art. Sorry, I really don't get it. So, and I no disrespect to you even raising that one, Janet, when you did, but you could be pedantic and say, well, music's not art, it's music. So where does the line get drawn to that's craft, that's art? Being ignorant, I admit it, but I don't get it.
Yeah, I think each individual application is how the committee would look at it. For instance, where the question was raised in Creative Monarchy
Yes,
application, there is various art range in that application. So, and they also have a percentage, which is they have an income for. Yes. So you may look at the application and say, well, you're not happy with the fact that there's crafts there, but you may not be giving the funding to that portion of the application.
Maybe I'm not making myself clear. To me, I don't get what the definition is. Isn't clay making craft? Not art?
It is, yes, it is. Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. Because clay is, and
But
you
I mean,
can-
I love it all. I'm not being negative.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. So I'm happy to be corrected if I misunderstand. that.
Yeah, I mean, I can go back to Creative New Zealand and ask what their line is, and we can verify it that way if you like.
Very good.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Question from Deputy Mayor Janet Holbrook.
I'm just following on this discussion. So I can't find the guide that we used to have. Which that's where this is coming from. It's not coming from me. It's coming from the guide that we used to read, that we used to use. Yes, this is guide. Yeah, it might be good if we have a link to that in Smarty Grants each time so that we can refer back to it. And also potentially have a little bit more information in the agenda around that so that we can refer to it. Yeah, particularly for those of us on Hub, just to
Madam
link to it
Chair,
would be
can I
good.
just say something?
Okay, I'm gonna look it up. Yeah, so that's where that was coming from, because that's what we're meant to follow. So, and that does mention crafts. So.
What I was going to say is that
What it did.
I think an email went out to each of the committee with an attachment to the assessor's guide. And I thought it was attached within the Smarty grants as well, but perhaps it's not. Yeah. But yeah, so there's an email, but what I can do is send you another link to it or print it off and have it sent to you. That way you can have a good look through it. Yeah, you would like that? Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, I have a question, please. Very new to me, but we heard today about a $25 minimum wage level for head for artists. I'm not sure if that should be artists or performers, and I'm not sure if that leads has been officially adopted by you yet and passed across these applications. Should we be doing that math while we're doing these considerations? And our tutors who are also artists or performers, should we be guided by $25 per hour as a fee for them? Yeah, exactly. Few questions, that one, and perhaps we could suggest, get some guideline from creative communities if it's their headroom.
Yeah, no, that's something we'll contact, we'll get hold of Creative
Yeah.
New Zealand and see what they have their criteria. Yeah.
So everything has not been passed across any of these applications.
Not as you've reviewed them.
We normally,
haven't.
yeah, we would just normally check that the figures are all adding up and yeah, and unless it's the criteria that they don't meet that they're asking for, we'll raise the attention that they won't get funding around a certain area like gifts, for instance. You can't fund gifts, so we would highlight to them that they won't get funding on that.
So, okay, thank you. Just a supplementary question. So as that $25 per hour headroom minimum wage was adopted, did we receive any advisory whatsoever from creative communities? No.
We'll check that out, Madam Chair.
Yeah,
So
I'll check that
the
out,
$25 sounds very similar to the living wage, which is 24 something or other. For us as decision makers, we have looked at that with respect to staff, but not yet to contractors, and certainly not with respect to grants and funds. So we've got a bit more work to do in that, but we'll take our lead from Creative New Zealand as to what their position is, if indeed it is a position.
Yeah.
Yeah, Janet Holbrook.
I've just found that guide and the word that they don't have the word crafts in there anymore. It might have been in the previous, or I might have been not remembering, but it actually lists projects without an arts focus, e.g. puzzles, upholstery, magic, model making, commercial design, commercial fashion design, fitness-based dance, and martial arts. Yeah, so that's pretty clear. Yeah, it's interesting because there's also projects that mainly deliver outcomes for other sectors, e.g. health, heritage, or the environment. That's quite good to have a look at that, actually.
So I think we'll have to use our discretion, Deputy Mayor. I'm looking on the same website, looking at the craft object arts definition, where sort of unhelpfully perhaps they've lumped together craft and object art, and there's another definition, another list of what that comprises as well. So I think we're just going to have to use our own common sense.
Yes, and I'm not sure if you current staff were here at the time, but in the last few years, the public art panel ran that lens, art craft lens, over the community arts trail. Participants, do you remember that? I mean, I've never seen such bad publicity for KCDC. Yeah, perhaps there was some information back from them as to the where's and wherefores, and perhaps also what lessons were learnt might be good to look for. Okay.
The item you mentioned, delivering outcomes for other sectors, for example, health, heritage, or the environment. The difficulty for those lovely women who are delivering for OCD is that a health project or is that arts? And what they're actually arguing, and they did so I thought quite convincingly, is that it's an arts project, but it happens to have health outcomes. So the outcome they're really seeking is an arts outcome, but by doing that, it has a health outcome. So you have to look at these on an individual basis.
I might defer conversation regarding individual applications to the next section of the meeting. So we will now adjourn for lunch, and we will adjourn and until further notice. Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. The $25 an hour issue with CNZ is a bit of a sensitive one, because some of the people in there at the panel level think that that's what it should be, and others think that that's too low. And I have been a victim of that. And and I think that people setting the hourly rate that they want to pay their experts or their participants, whatever, I think that's their right. You know, I feel very strongly about that. So that, you know, when we get to each individual, we'll see that some people's rates are much higher than others. But to criticise people at the $25 an hour is just as faulty in my opinion.